and the wind blew, and they came over the hill. And there they were, robot, physics, and hate machine. As the wind blew across their brow, they muttered, "Masters of Orion. Masters of Orion. Masters of Orion."
Hey guys, we're going to try something new out today, and it's essentially a game discussion on Master of Orion. It's a pretty long video, so if you don't feel like sitting through all of it, just click on the annotation somewhere on the screen right now, and you'll be taken to the end of the video where we give our recaps and all that fun stuff. Otherwise, thanks so much for checking the video out. We really appreciate it, and hope you enjoy. So, Master of Orion just recently came out on Steam as an early access game. It's featured right now for $49.99. Comes with Master of Orion 1 through 3 and the early access reboot version of Master of Orion. If you're not familiar with the series, it's a 4X game, much like Civilization or Endless Legend, and it's based in space. Now, kind of a preface in all of this, I have probably the least experience or least knowledge of Master of Orion in this. This is the first time I've literally ever played this game, but my companions here have some pretty in-depth knowledge of that. So let's go ahead and talk about what we like and dislike about this game and see if it lives up to the hype.
Let me go first, as I'm sure Tom has a lot more to say. I mean, the nostalgia. Obviously, I grew up watching Tom play Mu 2 and then playing it a little bit myself. It's super fun. I loved the research trees. I loved taking over the stars. My biggest gripe growing up playing this game was that we tried so hard to play this game online. And I mean, back then, when Mu 2 was still relatively new, and even at this point it was technically old, the only options you have were modeming in to your friend. So you had to dial their phone number, right? Because you had a modem in your computer back then. And try and connect. And the game just did not work well. Now, we were a little inexperienced back then with technology and computers and stuff. And we didn't know that there was apparently a multiplayer patch that fixed a lot of network issues with Mu and Mu 2, or maybe just Mu 2. I'm sure Hate Machine can go into that some more. But the biggest complaint ever was when you both ended your turn, you literally had to wait 5 minutes to start your next turn. Now, if you've already played a little bit of the new Masters of Orion, you can kind of begin to understand how long it would take to actually finish a whole game if you had to wait 5 minutes between each turn. And then besides that, it's just a lot of fun so far. I love that they kept the technology names nearly identical to what they were in the original Master of Orion. Well, while it's very familiar, I don't think the names really need to change and stuff. So I like that it's like Class 1 Shield, Mercantile Missile, and whatnot. Fusion bombs, antimatter bombs, so on and so forth. I think the star map looks great. I think the added feature of the battle fortresses or star bases, whatever it is you can put out on these warp points, that's cool. I don't think we had those in Mu. I might not be remembering correctly. And that's about it for me for now.
Even just from what I've seen, though, kind of like what you're talking about as far as the multiplayer, yeah, back in the day, like, it was almost impossible to have like a consistent game playing like the entire time, whether it be like StarCraft or Age of Empires or just, I just remember having to follow the 56K TCP IP direct connection route, man, and that stuff was just awful. Like, it just made it so hard to play.
And I forgot to talk about the most annoying thing about it is when you both clicked in turn, you'd both see this screen, and all it would tell you to indicate any kind of progress toward getting to the next turn and getting the game synced was sending chunk. Like, that's literally all it said, was sending chunk. Like, have you ever heard of a chunk of data? How much data is in a chunk exactly? Are we talking about like a megabyte? Well, it felt like a gigabyte given how long it fucking took. So we're not talking packets anymore. We're talking chunks.
I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty obvious given that the era that this game came out. It was obviously a kilo chunk, Jake. Obviously a kilo chunk.
A kilo chunk.
But even now, though, the multiplayer I feel like is in great shape. Even just for being an early access game, the time that we got to play it, it was just so much fun.
And that was the point I meant to get to earlier, was that it is obviously vastly improved over the original games as far as its playability. One feature though that definitely needs to, I feel like it's there, but maybe it's not working yet, or maybe they need to work on it some more. Is me and Hate Machine were playing a game the other night with some random dude somewhere, who knows where, and I accidentally got DC'd from the game because I launched some other application while I was playing and it crashed my game. And I saw the game in my recent games section somewhere in the menus, but when I tried to join it, it wouldn't work. And that's going to be like, given how long these Masters of Orion games can go on for, there needs to be a way to reconnect to a game. I think they should let AI take over if somebody drops out of a game. And just AI will play your character until you come back. Maybe you don't come back and AI just plays it out. But if you do come back, you're left with whatever cards AI dealt you.
I think that's actually going to be in the game, because when you did quit, the AI did take over, because it immediately sent me a bunch of diplomacy requests. It just sent me diplomacy requests, and then at the bottom it said, player's turn. It says which player, and then it would just say your race you picked, the Alkari. It didn't say your player name. But unfortunately, I guess since AI must not work on multiplayer, because you can't add AI and continue the game. It wouldn't let us add AI to games. So I guess AI just doesn't work on multiplayer, because it immediately stuck the game on processing, and obviously you can't talk whenever you're ending your turn. So the dude just sat there for a while till I finally just backed out.
Yeah, it's definitely clunky in some aspects, as far as like the gameplay and some of the mechanics for the multiplayer, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, it's early access, and honestly, this is probably one of the better early access games that I've ever played.
Agreed. And I think what I was trying to get at is I think there's a plan to make that feature work, because I feel like it's there, it's just not complete.
Right. Well, probably the first thing that got me interested in this is the voice overcast. I think I was looking through the Steam store page for this game, and there was a video where it had this cool spotlight on all the voice actors, and there was like Michael Dorn was the first person that was on this video, and I was like, awesome, Michael Dorn, love TNG. And then they kept going, and there was like Mark Hamill, and I'm like, no way, Mark Hamill! Like, I love his voice acting, and I love just the work that he's done. So that was just like an instant, okay, this has got to be pretty good then. I mean, that's kind of like what really lured me in. And I don't know how the old versions were, like if there was like any sort of voice acting or anything like this, but from what I can tell in the game, it's so beautifully well done.
Welcome, Your Highness. What wisdom do you seek?
I mean, there's like small things when it comes to the voicing that need to be reworked a little bit, but on top of that, inside of the game itself, like when you're actually playing the games, when you're going to things like the diplomacy screen or even the tutorials, like just they're so well done, and it makes it interesting enough to where you're like, wow, that was kind of cool, or it's like really quirky and kind of makes you giggle a little bit. And it's cool how the game doesn't necessarily take itself super serious in that regard. It kind of still just is playful and creative enough to keep it fun.
Ah, Your Imperial Highness, such an honor. Greetings, blessings, salutations. Yes. I'm here as your advisor, High One. The name is Quail, highly learned of the Flock's Science Academy. I am sworn to put my knowledge to the service of the Flock.
Well, I think it does a lot of things really well. I think it does some things not so well. Coming in as first impressions, I think, as we talked about, the voice performances are awesome. I think the UI is really, really intuitive. I think it's clean. It all makes sense. It's not overbearing to someone who isn't used to like a 4X game, I feel like, and it's easy to use and simple to understand for anyone who is a 4X player, to where it's like, oh, okay, this is where my workers are, oh, okay, this is how I auto move before, I actually want to finish my turn. Like, everything's really well placed and well positioned. I feel like even the tutorial, kind of like what I was talking about for the voiceovers, the tutorial isn't intrusive to where it's always like going, hey listen, hey listen, hey listen, like over and over again as far as what you need to be doing and what you have to focus on. It's just like very quick tips that say, hey, you know, now that it's been 10 turns, you should probably look at this window because you can do these things. It's pretty cool. And some of them are fully voiced over, which is neat. There's also really beautiful cutscenes in this game as well. I was really surprised. Whenever you're inhabiting a new planet, it's just this really cool short cutscene as far as, you know, like the colony ship going down and this grand music in the background, like, ah. It's awesome. And graphics, fantastic for a 2016 4X game. I think it's perfect. I didn't have any sort of performance system issues, so I'm not complaining. The only thing that kind of sucks in that regard is the options menu itself is fairly limited as far as what you can change, but it's not like it really needs anything super crazy settings wise. Like it's perfect the way that it is.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, like I was saying earlier, it's just, and like you were saying, it's mostly just little niggles here and there about early access. There's the, like, mechanic wise, I really kind of hate the pollution mechanic. I guess it was just in there to kind of gate, to kind of slow down production races, because, you know, Mu2 production races were king. You didn't matter if you had tech, if you had good espionage or whatever, you just outproduced and, you know, overwhelmed everybody with shitty ships, and that won the game. When I actually played, we were talking about how it was such a pain in the ass to play that game online. Well, they eventually, someone made a patch, and you could use DOSBox to emulate IPX over IP, and basically you would IPX connect to somebody, and then it would think that they're on the same internet as you or the local area network as you. And you could just basically set up a LAN game at that point with a bunch of people. And so I was in an IRC community, and we would set up games, and just about everybody who was power gaming there would always pick these low-tech races that were adept at stuffing a bunch of people onto one planet and producing as much as possible. And they would just create hordes of laser cannon ships at the very beginning of the game and just wreak havoc with that.
God, that sounds
it was
awful.
ridiculous. Like, you know, early on in that game, a lot of the weapons are really bad, and they're really good up close, but they're really bad because your ships are low tech, they're slow, they can't weather the hits, and then it just becomes a non-issue at a certain point because you tech to Gauss weapons, and Gauss weapons, I believe, didn't have range penalties. So at that point, you were just like sitting on the other side of the battle map, and you were just hosing people with spamming Gauss destroyers and Gauss frigates, and you're just hosing people online. There's nothing they could do because you had like 50 ships compared. You know, they had 50 ships compared to your like 3. So it was really stupid. But so I guess that's why they maybe added pollution to kind of like gate these the high production thing. Because for the most part, a lot of this game is very similar to the original game. So I'm figuring production might be also a problem as well.
Well, you reminded me actually of combat and ships. I remember the multiplayer game that we were playing, and we started teaming up on the AI. I only had like 3 or 4 ships like in my little armada, but they were carriers, I think. And I was just wrecking everything. Like, I wasn't even getting touched, like barely damaged or anything. I was literally in 2 or 3 turns destroying complete planets, huge fleets. It felt really weird. It's not normal for me. Like, I'm used to playing games like Civ where you have, you know, various units inside of your army and everything matters and there's like a rock, paper, scissors, but I just kind of destroyed everything with those 3 ships and was not punished at all for it. So is that normal in this game, in this ethos, or is it just the AI apparently not being good like a lot of people are saying, or imbalance, or I don't know what it is. What do you think?
Well, traditionally in Mu, it's really comes down to 2 things. Do you overwhelmingly out-tech somebody? Because there's really no like hard counters. I mean, there was a couple ways to assign your ships. You have like a ship that's all rockets, or you never want to mix and match weapons in Mu 2. You had like ships with all missiles or ships with all beam weapons, and then there were these specific special pieces of equipment you added to your ships that gave them stupid abilities. Like one would let your ship take 2 turns. And then there was a special weapon that would pretty much instantly kill everything with 1 shot. It was like a Death Star laser. It's called a Stellar Converter. That's actually in the new game. We just haven't gotten to it, but it lets you blow planets up, so you can actually completely destroy planets if you use it on a planet. It's pretty much it's a Death Star weapon.
Wow.
But like, you could rig up the game to where you had a ship that could teleport, was cloaked, could take 2 turns before they could take 1, and had that insta-kill weapon. And you stacked a bunch of those ships. So that was a way that you won. And then, like, I mean, there's just no counters. It's like you're either out-teching someone with crazy weapons, or you're throwing 50 ships that all do 1 damage against his 1 ship that can insta-kill any of your ships every turn, but can only take 50 damage,
I think if we're talking about, because ultimately what we're getting to in this conversation is balance, and how will they balance the game? Will they balance the game based around like an 8-person free for all, where like diplomacy and the decisions you make with alliances and backstabbing are going to be how you survive the game? Not really, because I mean, your alliances and stuff will depend on how long you may live in the game, long enough to maybe get to these higher tier tech trees where you just dominate later, and then you turn on your allies and then win. Or will they balance the game based on, I'm thinking back to my fighting game background. Each race is a different character, and what is that character's strengths and weaknesses? And will there just be like hard counters where this one race versus this other race, that race doesn't stand a chance? It's like a 9-1 matchup. Or will they be able to balance the game in a way where it's kind of like a 5-5 matchup between all the races? I don't know if you can have that and still keep them all unique, but I wonder how they are, or if they are trying to balance the game.
There's probably not going to be a whole lot of balance. This game probably isn't going to focus much on multiplayer. I mean, it's just going to be there, but I mean, this game's Mu's kind of always been like a solo, like a single player game basically. They just need to really up the AI, I think, and I don't think they're really gonna. There's probably gonna be some really broken stuff running around. Like right now, Cylon is kind of the race to be if you want to just win the game really easily, because they have all these great bonuses compared to everyone's really mediocre bonuses. And that's all right. I don't care. I don't really need this to be some super competitive game. I'm just interested in playing it casually.
Yeah, I hear you, Tom. I'm just saying, I remember back when we played Mu 2, our dream was to realistically be able to play this game online. And with technology today and software and the mistakes learned from the past, they have a real possibility of making this a legitimate online game versus its predecessors. So I just wonder if they are, what they're thinking about there. I'm not talking esports here, just a casually competitive online landscape.
All right, guys, it's time to make the choice. Is this going to live up to our expectations and to others' expectations?
Is this game chode material, or is it like a bottle of Coca-Cola?
No, don't even try. But it's a good game. I give it a thumbs up. I'm gonna support. Obviously, I bought the game. I think there's a lot of potential, and I'm hoping that developers will continue to polish the game, obviously, for a final release, whenever that's going to be.
So yeah, I think it's a good game. Give it a thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what it evolves into, and I've been looking forward to it for a long time, despite the couple of issues, but it's still good in my book.
This is definitely one of the best early access games that I've ever played. Most of the time, whenever you pick up an early access game, it's filled with bugs, it just doesn't work, and you instantly regret your purchase. Most of the time, you're probably even writing a bad review for it and asking for your money back on Steam as well. I didn't get that at all with Master of Orion. It's jam-packed with awesome voice performances from people like Michael Dorn and Mark Hamill. It has a great user interface, and I never felt overwhelmed with the information that was displayed to me. And the graphics looked great too, so there were really no major complaints on that front. The only complaints I have about the game are the lack of the ability to reconnect to a game if you disconnect in multiplayer, Hopefully that's something that is worked on in the near future. And sometimes there's an overabundance of the same voice file played whenever you're pulling up something like the diplomacy menu or the tech tree. But besides that, I really do give it a pass. I think it's a fantastic game, and if you're a 4X fan, a Master of Orion fan, or you just really want to try something new and don't mind some bugs here and there, and also shape the direction of the game, you should definitely pick up Master of Orion. So that's it, guys. It survived. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. It didn't get chopped.
No chopping this time.
Thumbs up.
Oh my god, that was the most anticlimactic thing from you, Jake. Thumbs up.
Well, just, the amount of cheese in the room right now is appalling.
Is it?
So because it was on the chopping block?
Yeah.
Hey,
I got
man.
a block of Velveeta.